everyone. I'm so happy and honored to have a very good friend of mine in the house today. Welcome, Dan.
Hello. Thanks, Tina.
Hey, Dan, do you remember how we met?
Yeah, I remember very well. It was a while ago.
Yeah, because how I met Dan was when you were the listing agent for, was that a short sale home or foreclosure?
Well, it was going for foreclosure, but we managed to do a short sale. So that was great. You came along in the nick of time. So.
Yeah. Home warranty was my part of the package.
I like to do that, Tina, for my clients, and I don't know if you do that now in your practice, but it's nice when, especially on a short sale or a home that hasn't been lived in recently, you don't know if the plumbing's leaking or if things are going to work. We found out
the water tank.
We turned everything on.
Right.
That's always a challenge. I know that when we turned the water on for that house, I had a plumber standing by, and he ran through the house fixing leaks because so many sprouted out.
Well, the water was working fine. But then after we purchased that, the water tank actually broke.
Yeah, it's a good thing it was in the garage. I can remember that.
Yeah, and you help with the insurance negotiation. So they replaced the whole tank.
Yes.
A brand new one.
Yes. Yeah, that old one was no hope.
Yeah. Actually, homeowner warranty, what kind of things they usually cover?
Well, the one you had, I think it was from First American Company, and it covers all of the basic plumbing and electrical appliances in the house. Like if the disposer breaks, you could get it replaced, and the hot water tank is a good example. That broke, and you can get that replaced. And you pay a nominal fee, and I think it's nowadays it's $80 for the fee to come out and the guy to make an assessment, and I think yours was $60. Of course, that's some years ago.
Right, but that insurance package was about $400, something like that?
Yeah.
Is it still about the same?
No, they're about $550 now.
Oh, increased now.
Depending on what you get. You could get a little better policy. I think basic policies are about $500, give or take a nickel, And I like to get the extra premium service because something always breaks. So if you discover a leak in the roof and mold grows in the walls, and your second week in the house you discover there's mold, then what do you do about it? You'd have to call the specific insurance company and see if they'll even deal with that. But usually you're into a whole new world of services. So
that's not part of that home warranty.
No, they're pretty limited, and it certainly pays you to read the policy. I just had a client that tried to get a leak covered. And it was from a different company, but they took like 3 or 4 days to even show up. And when they did, they said, well, we don't cover leaks. And, that's something they could say over the phone, So there's a lot of issues with these policies, and sometimes it pays to familiarize yourself with them and figure out what they charge and what they don't. But in your situation, it was perfect because they're $1,000.
So since we're into the topic about short sale and foreclosure, maybe we can talk about a little bit something more into foreclosure. Actually, what is a foreclosure home?
Well, Tina, foreclosure is a forced sale of a property.
Okay.
And the lender is the one that does that. The lender hasn't been paid the mortgage, and the process takes sometimes as much as 9 months to get an actual foreclosure accomplished. And there's a whole lot we could talk about of what's happening today versus what happened in, way back when. When the bank forecloses on a property, and what they do is they go to the courthouse steps. In Washington, it happens every Friday.
Okay.
And whoever's being foreclosed on, it's an auction. It's a public auction. And they try to get the best highest amount for the property that they can.
Right.
And often the bank representative is there bidding at the auction so they can get the property back.
Okay.
And that's something that is crowded with investors and people that are very familiar with the public auction process.
Okay.
And that's not something you and I would be, you know.
So that's part of the foreclosure.
That's the end. That is the foreclosure. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the forced sale. That's when the bank says, I want as much money as I can get for this property and we don't want to deal with it.
Okay.
And an investor buys it and then it's gone. It's owned by somebody else. Foreclosure is the bidding process.
Oh, okay.
And the only bidding that happens is right there at the courthouse steps.
Okay.
And that's when, and they're trying to get an investor to give them as much money as they're owed on the property. And that almost never happens. So, you know, 5 times out of 10, the bank buys their own property back.
Oh, okay.
And that's what an REO is. It's real estate owned. It stands for real estate owned, and that's when a bank owns the property. And then they're in the same boat as you and I as homeowners would be.
Right.
If they want to sell it, now they have to go to the open market to sell it. And that's where they reach out for a realtor to represent them and set the home on the market and see how much they could get.
As a realtor, we can also do the bank own.
Sure.
I see.
We just need to get the bank to hire us. And when they do that, then, you know, they like dealing with realtors. They never do it themselves. The banks don't want the properties. And they don't know how to sell it. They don't know how to market it. And their business is money, and they do not want property.
I see.
And there's a lot of problems that happen with REOs, or real estate owned by banks, and it's a lot to pay attention to for someone who wants to buy properties.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, like for buyers, what do they need to pay attention? Because usually this type of housing, nobody lives there anymore, right?
Right.
It's been like vacant for a long time.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of problems with that. And a buyer looking to purchase a home, an REO, has to look at everything. I mean, it puts a very, very real meaning to due diligence. You know that term, right?
Do you allow to do inspection?
Well, that's up to the bank and the realtor involved.
Oh, okay.
And of course, you are allowed to do an inspection. There's an inspection process that goes with any marketing of a home. And the bank rarely, when I work with a bank, I try to get them to pay for an inspection so we can offer that to the buyer. And I'm sure you've seen that recently where there's a pre-inspection done.
Right.
And that just saves a whole lot of steps for the buyer, and they can see from the inspection report just what they're getting.
But usually it's sell as is. The bank will not fix anything for you.
Right. That could be a problem. A buyer really has to be careful about what the condition is of the house.
Right.
And, you know, look at everything.
Yeah. So as a realtor, that's where we play a very important role.
Yes.
They are helping the client.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. It's as a listing agent for the bank, we represent the bank.
Okay.
So 9 times out of 10, another real estate agent will bring a buyer into the property and show that to them. And we'll just mostly be the listing agent, sit back and wait for offers to come in.
Yeah. Oh, at the time when my parents purchased that home from you, we didn't have an agent, right? So you were representing both sides, like a dual agent.
I was a dual agent, yeah.
Okay, so you're allowed to do dual agents for foreclosed properties?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, get rid of the word foreclosed, because once it's foreclosed, it's owned by somebody else. But if nobody else buys it, then the bank takes it back. Then the bank is an owner.
Okay, and hiring us to do the sale.
They hire us. So they're in the position as any other homeowner would be.
I see.
who wants to put their home on the market. So.
What about short sale? What's the difference?
Well, a short sale interrupts the foreclosure process. Like we said before, it takes about 9 months for a foreclosure to actually happen. And in Washington State, we've got a law, and I think it was passed about 2011, and it's called the Washington State Foreclosure Fairness Act.
Okay.
And that is a real good thing for homeowners. Short sale that's something that a bank needs to agree to. That's not a given.
Okay.
A bank would, like back in the day where we met, the market was saturated with foreclosures. They were everywhere.
Right.
And the problem was going to the open market to sell a house, we couldn't get enough money to satisfy the bank loan. So the bank was in a hard place wondering what to do with this property that they don't want. They just want the money. So what happens is they hire a realtor like us to do a market analysis and find out what kind of price point where we can offer the house for sale at.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, it was never adequate to bring enough money to satisfy the loan. So the bank then is in the position to offer a short sale or to allow a short sale. And that simply means they're taking less money for the property than what is owed on the property.
Okay.
So if there's a $600,000 loan on the property and the bank is still owned $550,000, the best you and I could get on the open market be $485,000.
Oh.
That's the best we could get. Well, we go to the bank and say that's what the market will bring us. That's as good as it's going to get, and the bank agrees to sell it short.
So there's a negotiation part between like a realtor with the bank.
Right.
Okay. For this type of sale, will bank has a realtor or?
Well, in the case, we'll use us as an example. In our case, when I had the property, the bank hired me to put it on the market, and we did a market analysis, and we thought, okay, we're going to list the property at X amount of dollars. I forget what it was. And we sat for 2 weeks without an offer. And then I went back to the bank and I told them that, 2 weeks went by. I held open houses every weekend. I saturated the world with marketing, and nobody wanted to make an offer at our price point.
Right.
So the bank said, okay, then we can agree to a price reduction. And we lowered the price. I think I lowered it $10,000 or $15,000.
Usually, how long is that you have to wait on the market?
Well, I gave it 2 weeks. I was working with
only 2 weeks.
Yeah, and every bank is different.
Okay.
I think I was working with Wells Fargo at the time, and I was talking with the bank representative 2 or 3 times a week to let them know how we're doing.
Okay.
And they were very pleased with us. They were glad to have our service, and every time we recommended a price reduction, they
accepted.
Yeah, they accepted it. And
wonderful.
we went through 4 of them before you actually showed up and made the best offer. So.
And that was another offer at the time too.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah.
We ended up with 3 offers. We had the. I am remembering this right. We had 4 price reductions. Am I losing the voice now?
No, they will let us know. Yeah.
So anyway, the 4th price reduction was the sweet spot. That's where we were jiving with the rest of the marketplace, and that's where people started to come out of the woodwork and we started making offers.
I see.
And 2 of them were really low, and 2 of them were close. And you were so
good, because I think I remember my parents wanted to add 5,000 more, but you came back, told us, just 1,000 more, you can get the house.
That's how close the bid was.
Yeah. So you saved us some money, right there.
Thank you. Well, it turned out that our second best offer didn't really qualify.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were offering, but then when I checked the lender, which was after you made your offer,
for foreclosure house, can you get a loan?
you might be able to get a loan. The trick with a loan is the appraisals.
Oh.
And if a house has been sitting vacant and uncared for a long time, I mean, that house was actually in pretty good shape.
Right.
And I don't think it wasn't abused at all, which sometimes happens with an REO home, you know, bank-owned property.
Okay. Oh, that was already bank-owned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, yes, the bank owned the property and, no, I'm wrong about that. We interrupted the foreclosure process. And we beat the foreclosure by the bank accepted a short sale.
Okay.
They didn't want to go through foreclosure.
Oh, so if that went into foreclosure, well, ending up to the bidding world. But then before that, they accept the short sale.
Well,
first.
Remember that a foreclosure happens on the courthouse steps. That's offered to the people who show up on that day only.
Okay.
And if they don't pay enough money that the bank will accept on that day, then the bank owns the property.
Okay, and they will still have to put in the market again.
Then they have to go, to the open market. Yeah. The bank did not want to go through foreclosure because that would have been 9 months where they have carrying costs. They're responsible for taxes. They're responsible for maintenance.
Okay.
If the storm blew the roof off and the whole house leaked, they would have to fix it.
During the time, would the house have insurance on it or no?
No.
Okay.
And none of the taxes were paid.
Wow. Oh, so then people who purchase that home need to pay the tax, or the bank will actually?
Well, the bank does that, Tina. They, most banks will, once they're owed months of mortgage payments, and they know they're in default and they're on their way to foreclosure, the bank will often pay the back taxes just so the bank is in first position on the loan. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the government is always in first position.
Right.
So the taxes are paid for. And
you can owe anything, but not the government.
Not the government. Right. They'll take the house right out from under you. So.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned about the 9 months. Is that the standard time or it's?
Approximately. It could be longer.
Oh, it can be longer, but not shorter, or it's?
Well, it could be. It depends on the specific situation.
Okay.
We're very lucky now in 2023 because we have this Foreclosure Fairness Act. Forces the bank to offer a mediation service to the homeowners.
Oh.
There's a thing called notice of before foreclosure, or I forget the verbiage of it, but anyway, it's they have to notify you that mediation is possible. And what I like to do is to talk to people when they're in that default stage and they know they have a problem and they know they got to do something about it, and that's where we can be a lot of service to people.
I see.
Because we can go in and talk things over with people and let them know that they have options. They're entitled to free legal help. They can get, from the state of Washington, they can get all kinds of information.
Okay.
The last thing I would recommend to anybody is to try to do this by yourself online.
By yourself online?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean don't do it?
Don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah. But
by
talk to somebody.
Online,
there are people trying to work out a foreclosure solution online, and they really don't know what they're doing.
Oh.
And they could end up in a worse situation than.
So what do you recommend? Always have a realtor to help you with?
Well, that's a good way to start. But I would, when I have the privilege to talking to people who are in default, I try to learn about their situation, and I'm a big picture guy. I'm trying to look at the whole big picture for them, and decide what would be best for them. And the very first thing I recommend, Tina, is to find a real estate attorney who's competent in foreclosures and short sales, and sit down and talk with them about the up to the moment current legal standings and the procedures that we need to go through. And this is a frightening ordeal for families to go through. And it's easy to make a mistake. And as realtors, we're not competent to negotiate with a bank or with a mortgage insurance company, for example. And I mean, I did that back in the day. But nowadays, I wouldn't think of it because we've got new tools at our disposal, and there's so many really good real estate attorneys around that are way more proficient at it. When it comes to selling the house, marketing the house, you and I are experts at that. We know how to do that. But let the attorneys guide people for that big picture approach. Well, what are you going to do after you move out of the house? And how are you going to rebuild your credit coming out of it? Because one example of a foreclosure is as bad as a bankruptcy on your credit.
She said good tips. We're learning something today.
Oh, are they? Oh, good. So we're really live, huh?
Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur, guys. This is new to me.
I'm digging you out. One last question. So for buyers who want to purchase like a foreclosure or a short sale, what sources can they go?
Well, I think the first step is online, of course. Go to HUD, Housing, Urban and Development Department, and there's hundreds of sites, and a lot of them are pay sites. That where you have to give them a monthly fee or a one-time fee to look at their listings. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is the place to go for, finding foreclosed properties that the bank might own. But there's a lot. I mean, it takes some digging to find them. And it could be worth it. But again, it's very, very important to know what you're doing.
So everyone can go online and then look at it yourself.
You can look at listings, and if there's anything that interests you, I'm sure there's realtors that are offering those listings. And it might be advisable to get your own realtor to represent you instead of the bank. Unless you see, now we have to have a contract with a buyer. And it's good to have one anytime we're working with a buyer, so the buyer is aware of all the work that we're going to do for them. And looking at bank-owned properties, there's a lot to look at, and we have to figure out how long the house has been vacant, and if there are any squatters in the house. Homeless people moving in the house, that presents all kinds of issues, and it may not be a clear title when all is said and done. So you really need somebody competent on your side. So there's my 2 cents on that.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, for all the information.
Thanks for thinking of me.
There's actually a lot to learn about foreclosure and short sale.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it lightly. I recommend to anybody to get a good attorney. And I can certainly help you with that, and I'm sure Tina could too. You need a competent real estate attorney who's experienced at foreclosures and short sales, and let them, especially if you're underwater on your mortgage, let them advise you as to what your rights are and how you can plan your next move in the next 5 or 10 years. So that's really important. So, but in the interest of full disclosure, if anybody ever asks, you can say how you purchased it. And you purchased it in terms of a person's credit report, like the previous owners, on their credit report, it's going to read the home was paid in full. So the word short sale and foreclosure won't even exist on the credit report or even the title report.
So yeah, as long as the title is clear, house has no problem. So that's a lien that's long gone. It's probably won't even be on there by now. Yeah, it's so good to have you here. Are you having fun?
I am having fun. This is my first camera experience, guys.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. This has been fun.
Lunar New Year. Yeah, do you want to say some Chinese Mandarin?
Sure.
I can teach you.
Okay.
We can like a Happy New Year. 在新年
新年
快乐
快乐
新年快乐。
新年快乐。
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. 新年快乐。
新年快乐。
Very good. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. 新年快乐。
新年快乐。
Thank you. Bye.